Now this week has been the hottest week in the UK so far this year, with temperatures here in Manchester getting to a balmy 24 degrees. So this weekend, it's Saturday today, it's the bank holiday weekend, and obviously because we're Brits, we need to have a barbie. But the weather is awful, but that doesn't put us off, because we're going to crack on and have a barbie anyway. Now, it gave me an idea. Let's talk about the safety of using a barbecue, especially a gas barbecue. So, let's get on with it and find out exactly how we can stay safe while we're having a barbie. Now, before we can actually use the barbecue, because it's been left here over the winter months, we need to check it and make sure it hasn't got any leaves and debris in it or any critters living in it. So we'll also need to make sure we check the burners and make sure they're not damaged. Now, there is a little bit of debris in here, so what I'm going to have to do first is get the vacuum cleaner out and give it a vac out, and then give it a wipe out, and it should be ready to go. Now I've vacked it out, I can wipe it out. Now I'm quite lucky that this barbecue all comes apart. And I have little trays which I can give a proper good wash to. Now there are a load of cleaning chemicals out there, but just make sure you get one that's purposely made for barbecues. Now before I actually put the burner covers back on, I'm just going to make sure the ignition works on each one of the burners. That's massively important when you're using an LPG barbie. So all I need to do is look down here and see if it sparks. That one's working. So's that one. And that one. So the ignition's working. So now the barbecue is actually clean enough to eat off. Let's check the gas cylinder to make sure we can actually have this barbecue. Now there are two types of LPG gas. There's butane and propane. We're using propane, and as you can see there are loads of different sizes. Now for a gas barbecue you can use the patio heater gas, and it comes in 6 and 13 kilogram bottles, and we have used a 6 kilogram one. Now this type of bottle comes with a 27mm quick release self-sealing coupling. So I have to make sure that the regulator is also a 27mm quick release self-sealing regulator. First thing we need to do is make sure the actual cylinder is in good condition, and we need to know how much is in there. So you could weigh the cylinder, or I've got one of these indicators to tell me how much gas is actually in this. So if I pour hot water on here, it will go to the level of the gas in the bottle. So you can see I've got quite a lot of gas left in this bottle, so I can crack on and do this barbecue. Did you know if your landlord provides a gas barbecue at the rented property you're staying at, it will need to be checked as part of the landlord's gas safety check certificate. If it is not provided by your landlord, then you, as the owner, are responsible for ensuring the safety of the barbecue. Now, before we actually connect the cylinder back to the barbecue, we need to move the barbecue into the correct location. Now here is not a good idea because we've got a UPVC window right here and we're against the house and we've got the roof and we could cause a fire. So we don't want to be within a metre of a building, and also because of the cylinders we need to comply with the position for the cylinders away as well, so no near open drains and stuff like that. So we need to move it. I'm going to move it where you are. So when thinking of siting your barbecue, make sure the ground is firm and level, and like I say, you're away from buildings and combustible materials. Otherwise, you might just regret it. I think that's a good place. A little bit close to the steps, but anyway, that'll do. Now, never ever think about cooking in a tent with gas, because you haven't just got the potential risk of an explosion, you've also got the potential risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. This also goes for gazebos and garages, so enclosed spaces. So when you're doing this kind of stuff, you need to be outside. Also includes these little instant barbecues and tiny little barbecues and huge barbecues. You don't do any cooking whatsoever in a tent, no matter how bad the weather gets in the UK. Now, never leave your barbecue unattended while the food is cooking. Also, am I the only one who uses these steel trays to stop all the fat and grease going onto the burner? If you do the same as me, put down in the comments and let me know. Now, if you are using a gas barbecue, or any barbecue to be fair, make sure you've got a little fire extinguisher with you, or at least a bucket of water, because one thing you don't want to happen is a massive explosion. Now, just bear in mind, LPG is heavier than air, so when you are lighting it, you've got to be really careful that you don't get a build-up of gas within the barbecue, because if you do, you could actually get a big explosion and you won't smell the gas because it'll be low down inside the barbecue. So, health and safety, always. When you're barbecuing, always make sure you keep your pets, little children and your wives well away. Go on, Rose, be a good girl. Go on, over there. Good girl. Now, disposable barbecues can be really handy, but they can also be quite dangerous. So if I just sat this on the ground and set fire to it, that could make that ground incredibly hot. And that means once you finish barbecuing and you move it, this ground could be still hot as well as burnt, and somebody could stand or sit on it, or your pets could go on it. So if you are going to use them, make sure you don't put them right onto the ground. Use something like a brick to keep them elevated off that ground. Now, when you've finished using your disposable barbecue, make sure you extinguish it correctly and safely. Do not leave it lit and just let it naturally go out, because it could cause a forest fire. So when you're finished with it, pour a bucket of water over it, or if you've got a bag of sand, pour some sand on it, or don't take one at all, because in the wilderness these are an absolute menace. So if you do take them, make sure you put them out correctly and make sure you take it with you when you're finished with it. Also remember, don't try and pick them up until you have extinguished the fire and you know they're very, very cool. Now, if you live in a flat, don't be tempted to use one of these on your balcony, because the glowing embers might get blown for a long distance because you're high up, and they could land in nearby neighbours' gardens, or it could be in grasslands or woodlands and cause a fire. Just use your cooker. Now, charcoal barbecues have their own problems. Now, don't be tempted to completely fill the base of this with your charcoal. You only need about 50 ml, 2 inches in the bottom. When you come to light it, make sure you use recognised fire lighters. Don't use petrol or anything like that. Lighter fluid, none of that stuff. Use the recognised fire lighters, or even better still, you can buy these pre-made bags where you just put the bag in the bottom of the barbecue and you set fire to the bag and it does it all for you. And again, when you come to dispose of this, make sure you dispose of it correctly and safely. Now, never dispose of your hot charcoal in your wheelie bin or your rubbish bin, because first of all, they're made of plastic. Also, you've got lots of combustible stuff in your bin, so you could cause a fire. So leave it 24 hours before you put your coals in your bin. Now, when you're using stoves like this one, don't use too big a pan on the burner, because it can cause incomplete combustion or a differential in pressure underneath, which can actually extinguish the flame and leave the gas to come out and you wouldn't notice it. So don't use too big a pan. So I just got this little one here to show you with a bit of water in it. And when you've finished cooking completely, don't turn it off here first, turn it off at the bottle first, and then let the flame naturally go out. And then once the flame's gone out, you can turn it off. And the reason for this is so you're not leaving any pressure in the actual hose, and it'll make it easier for you when you're disconnecting the regulator off your bottle. Now, before we connect the cylinder to the barbecue, we need to check and make sure the hose and the regulator are in good condition. And then all we have to do is press it down and turn it on. Now we've got it on, I'm going to purge it through, but I'm going to use some leak detection fluid to check and make sure I've got no leaks anywhere. Now, can you use soapy water? Well, if you do, there is a chance you could corrode everything. So use the correct stuff. You can get this dead cheap from your local hardware store or your plumber's merchants, and it's the correct stuff for doing this job. But first of all, I need to make sure it works, so then I've got all gas in there so I can test for leaks. Oh, now it's purged through, I can check for leaks. Everything seems to be pretty good there. Remember, we still need to wipe all this off. Now the bottle's in position and secure, all we need now is the guests so we can have a barbie. And now the barbecuing is over, we can prepare to put the barbecue away. Now, like I've just shown you on the cooktop, is we need to get rid of the pressure out of the pipes before we do this. Once we've done that, disconnect the regulator from the bottle. Notice there's no when we did that, because we've removed all the pressure. Now we can get our leak detection fluid and make sure the bottle is not passing. And once we've cleaned it, we can put it back in its storage position. So, hopefully you've liked the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!